Hi guys, welcome back to the channel of Behind Businesses. You might be wondering why am I introducing today's podcast. But today's video, we are gonna exchange our seats. So I'm gonna be the interviewer and Chalvi is gonna be the one who is gonna talk about today's topic in the podcast. So before going into the topic, I wanna ask you one question. Do you know how many clothes do you buy in a year? Or do you know how many piles of clothes are there in your closet? So today's topic is about fast fashion. So hi Shalvi.
Hi.
Uh, so before we talk about fast fashions, there are like lot of these fast fashions advertising sustainable. We are sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
We do circular economy and all. Like the sustainable topic is quite often used across all sectors. But I wonder, is it actually this fast fashion is actually sustainable? Or like what happens behind the business of a fast fashion?
So, before we move on to what happens behind the businesses of fast fashion brands, let's look at some of the advertisements that are shown to us by these brands.
The world has changed. What we do today will define our tomorrow. We will keep changing how we design, how we choose materials, and how we make our products. We're turning using into reusing and recycling. Already more than half of our materials are recycled, organic, or sustainably sourced.
Dear Planet, we are committed to making fashion more sustainable. That's why 79% of our garments already have sustainable properties. By 2022, it will be 100%.
To the music, dancing to the beat, smiling distant strangers winking on my feet. Then I see the moonlight sparkling in your eyes. Oh my.
So, I'm pretty sure most of us might have seen these kind of advertisements by Zara, H&M, Mango, like we saw. These brands advertise their products as sustainable or they are producing eco-friendly products, but what they say versus what they do has like a huge difference. And what they do is greenwashing. It's called as greenwashing or fake eco-marketing, where they talk about sustainability and all, but what actually happens in reality is completely different. So to give you an example, H&M is one of the most polluting brands. It produces around 3 million garments every year, and their revenue is around USD $22 billion, out of which including 4.1 USD, which is of unsold clothing, and the amount
Oh.
of unsold clothing is so much that it's actually even used as a fuel in Swedish power plants. So these kind of companies are growing, becoming successful, but at what cost?
You said these clothes are used as a fuel. So how is it used as a fuel?
So H&M products are used more than for clothing. They are used as fuels in power plants instead of coal. So they want to reduce the use of coal, but they burn out the clothes to make fuel or to make energy for these power plants.
Okay. Now I actually get an understanding of how much clothes are being like ending in a piles
Right.
of waste. And like to run a power plant, it actually needs like lot of energy. And if that energy is being supplied by burning clothes, I can imagine how many huge pile of clothes are being burned every day to
Right.
provide that energy.
Yeah, and only less than like 5% of these clothes, thrown away clothes, are used as fuels for these power plants. But around 95% of unused clothes or unsold clothes just end up in landfills or contribute to the water pollution. So these fast fashion industries, this is the second largest consumer of the world's water supply, and it is estimated that 24 years worth of drinking water is used to make just one cotton t-shirt. And they release microplastics, they release oils. It's like adding so much to the water pollution. So, and this doesn't get end here. They use synthetic fabrics like polyester, nylon, which use over 350 million gallons of oil every year. So they use these
Oh.
kind of materials also.
I mean, it's quite extensive, the effects of the fast fashion. But I also wonder, like, today's youth are actually, consciously making the decisions to buy a product which is eco-friendly, or choose a product which is coming from a company which follows these eco-friendly practices. And like youth is actually attracted to these sustainable products, eco-friendly products and all.
Yeah.
So don't these brands actually like know this, and don't they want to turn their practices into like more into greener way and all?
Yeah, I mean these brands very well know that the today's generation is focusing more like consciously buying products and focusing more on climate change, thinking about it. And some of these companies, like a very handful of companies, are moving towards like reducing their carbon emission or carbon footprint. But most of these companies spend more on this fake eco advertising rather than actually making a change.
So like before we move further, I just wanted to ask you like how did the fast fashion actually evolve, and how it has changed in years, and
Yeah.
also if you can give us how the clothing industry itself has started to in a way understand for us like where we are and like how far we have come from that initial stage.
Right. This fast fashion or the fashion industry has changed so much over the years. So initially, before industrial revolution, pre 1800s, fashion used to be very slow. People used to find and source their own materials. They used to make their own clothes. And after the industrial revolution, during mid 1800s, around 1850s, fast fashion started becoming a norm. Like people started mass producing. The sewing machine was invented, and this led to the emergence of sweatshops. So these sweatshops are mostly in countries like Bangladesh, India, companies like this. So most of the tags that you find on the t-shirts are made, would say that the t-shirt is made from either one of
Yeah,
these
like
companies.
China
Yeah.
or like
And
Vietnam.
right, and this fast fashion term was coined by New York Times in 1990s after Zara introduced a new accelerated production model from the design stage to the customer stores, to the clothing stores.
Okay, so like as the innovation progressed and as the production rate has decreased to per piece, like decrease the time per to make one piece, I feel they also started to produce more number of goods, like mass produce, and as they produce more, we kept on buying more because like there is a lot of stuff that is coming,
Yeah.
like a lot of fashion are rapidly changing, and youth were like rapidly want to get into that trend, and like they bought more.
Yeah, you're right. So the demand for fashion has been exponentially growing, and before around 40 years, during the 1980s, an average American brought around 12 pieces of clothing per year, and now he buys around 68 pieces of clothing per year. So
Like that's like almost 5 times it has increased over these years.
right. So now, before buying clothes was a necessity, and now it has become a fashion. And these companies are also, they keep producing, like you said, youth is moving towards new trends, new fashion. So these companies also gain their profit by producing new garments every day. So companies like Zara, Forever 21, H&M, they
Yeah.
produce. So earlier, it took 12 months for a clothing or for a piece of clothing to release from the design stage to the production stage. And now, because of these fast fashion brands, it just takes 3 to 4 months. And these clothes, you might have observed that these brands sell clothes at a cheaper rate than what you will get at mainstream brands.
Okay. So how do these fast fashion brands sell these products at a cheaper rate? What is the difference that they make from the mainstream products, mainstream fashion, that they can cut like, or where are the cost cuttings happening in the fast fashion so that they can sell the products
Yeah.
at a cheaper rate?
So they mostly cut down the design costs, and they acquire cheaper raw materials or low quality raw materials, and they also adapt cheaper labor. So like I said before, also this kind of clothing are produced in sweatshops like developing countries like Bangladesh, India, Vietnam.
So like what are these sweatshops? What happens in that sweatshops?
So sweatshops are basically factories or workplaces where workers are employed at very low wages, and they work up to 18 hours straight in a day, and they barely even get holidays, so they just get one holiday in a month.
Once
So
in a month.
yeah, they don't even have weekends,
Oh.
holidays. and they don't have any option to like leave that company because they are in threat of extreme poverty.
Yeah, and like I feel there is no other jobs that are created in these lower economic countries
Right.
or developing countries, so they just don't have any options. uh, and also because like they exploit the employees so much
Mm-hmm.
that they don't give holidays, they give like less wages and all.
Right.
Don't they have any inspections or like supervisions that happen?
There are some supervisions and inspections happening at these factories. Inspectors do come but they usually stay only 1-2 days. They just look upper say what is happening in the factories, and so usually they don't do any interrogation as such. So, and usually these factory owners are pre-informed that these inspectors will be coming to your factories. So if there is child labor, they just hide it for the certain number of days. They'll just tell the children not to work for that number of days, and they even tell their workers how to answer or what to answer to these inspectors.
Okay.
So these laborers also answer in a way that the factory owners have told them, because they have this threat of losing their job.
I remember, like when we are talking about factories, I remember this one news which is collapse of Rana Plaza factory, where thousands of employees have been, died because of the collapse. And I guess that is one of the news which came into a light and which
Yeah.
was very viral. That is one of the news which showed like what are the workers' life actually they are at factories.
Yeah, so it's called the Rana Plaza factory collapse, and the entire building structure was collapsed. So this happened in 2013 in Bangladesh, and this happened mostly because of the wrongly granted approval of the factory structure by the mayor and the factory owner, who was Suhail Rana. And some of these conditions were noticed by the workers, and they also complained or brought this issue to the factory owners or managers, but the factory owners simply ignored it, and they threatened or they forced the workers to come to the place and continue working. And
So
this is,
they know that like the building was vulnerable before
yeah,
also, but they still didn't take any action there.
yeah, and this was only one incident. So after this incident, they did inspections in over 1,000 factories, and they found 80,000 safety related issues.
Like for 1,000 factories,
Yeah,
they found
80,000.
80,000 complaints.
Yeah, they are
That-
just like
that's a
risking
lot.
innocent lives in the name of corruption or in
Yeah.
the names of unethical practices.
And like I know there is no job, so they just don't have any option but to work there. But even then, like in India, we see farmers, if they don't get minimum MSP from the government or the respective mill, they go on a strike. All farmers unitedly go on a strike. Even like a factory workers, if they don't get a salary increase or if their working hours are more, they actually go on a strike as a union. They form a union and unitedly go on a strike. So if not any individual complaints, don't they have any unions or like any strikes that go on?
So these brands very well know that if the workers formed unions, they'll go against these brand. So they most of the times they don't allow these workers to form their unions. And even if they do, so this reminds me of one incident that happened recently in 2019. So a group of around 1,000 workers came together and went on a strike over their low wages. But what happened was that one worker was killed when the police started firing. So even if they do complain, even if their unions do complain or raise this issue, they are simply ignored or sometimes maybe even killed by the police.
So that's just, even if they raise their voice also, police shut their voice.
Yeah.
And like police also, I guess they are bribed by these companies so
Yeah.
that they keep in control of their workers.
Right, and not just this, the workers also the workers are also falsely accused of stealing. Or so there's this one incident where the factory owner falsely accused their worker that he stole his phone. The worker stole the owner's phone. So the inspector also believed that the inspectors mostly believe the factory owners rather than believing the workers. And not just believe, even if they don't believe, they are bribed, or in the name
Yeah,
of corruption
yeah.
they are bribed. So even if again they raise the issue,
It's not
considered,
noticed.
noticed,
It
yeah.
goes unnoticed.
right.
I mean, like it's really hard. Like these conditions are like they exploit a lot. It goes to extreme, I feel. And I remember when I was asking that, aren't companies actually going towards the green practices or like eco-friendly practices? You mentioned that there were some companies which are actually following them.
Yeah.
So can you explain how do they actually succeed in following these practices?
Right. So most of these mainstream brands, like to name a few, Adidas, Patagonia, Spell, are sustainable or ethical brands. Even Levi's is a sustainable brand. So, for example, Adidas has recently signed a partnership with Parley for the Oceans, where they partner with Parley and they actually remove plastic waste from the oceans.
Okay.
And they are also contributing to reducing the carbon emissions, carbon footprints, or thinking about how much water they are using for their productions. Again, then to give you another example, Levis has been working as a sustainable brand since a long time, and they are dedicatingly making products that will last a lifetime rather than people just throwing it away.
So they consciously procure the raw materials also so that it will last for a long time.
Yeah, so they are very conscious about using natural fibers, environmentally friendly fibers, and companies like Spell are very transparent also in their supply chain. So in Spell's website, they have mentioned how they treat their workers, or what kind of materials they use, how they are reducing the carbon footprint. So they bring this out to the consumers.
So there are
But-
like these successful stories also that
Yeah,
actually they are successful in business and also successful in following green practices.
right.
Yeah, and I guess these are the companies which show way to other companies,
fashion
fast
brands.
fashion brands, that hey, there are these practices that actually can be followed, and we are actually in making a profitable business
Yeah,
by
because
following
these are
this.
well-known companies, right? It's not like they are small companies; they're big, well-known companies.
And also I feel like even individual level also we need to consciously make a decision on what we are buying, and we need to consciously take products which are actually which are actually eco-friendly, and products of a company which actually follow some eco-friendly
Yeah,
practices and
and
ethical
also
practices.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not just at an individual level. I think at an organizational level also, governments should take these supervisions or interrogations of these factories seriously and not just do ooper say. They should actually go and interrogate the workers, the factory owners, and they should see to it that the workers are paid whatever they deserve and not underpaid.
I guess, yeah, we can conclude that like at an individual level and both at an organization level also, there has to be a change so that the companies, more and more companies would go in and follow ethical practices and follow eco-friendly practices more. So I guess that comes here. We come to an end to our podcast, and thank you for sharing about these fast fashion, how they influence people, and what goes behind a fast fashion, and how it's exploiting their workers, and how it's damaging environment also.
Yeah.
So thank you for explaining all those things, and hope you guys also got some good insights, and hope you also take a conscious decision while buying your clothes, and hope you also be conscious on how much you are buying and how much you are throwing also. Hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and until the next podcast, see you. Bye bye.